The story of electric cars is quite something. It's a story of clever ideas, new inventions, and never giving up. It all started way back in the 1800s, long before noisy petrol engines filled our streets. Clever inventors, curious and wanting cleaner transport, started what we now call the electric revolution. In 1828, Ányos Jedlik, a Hungarian inventor, made a small electric motor. He used it to power a tiny model car. This was a big moment. It was the very beginning of the electric car. Then, in 1835, Thomas Davenport, an American blacksmith, made a bigger, more useful electric car. Across the ocean, other inventors were busy too. Werner von Siemens, in 1879, built an electric railway in Berlin. This showed how useful electric power could be for transport. In England, Thomas Parker showed off his electric car. It was one of the first proper electric cars, and it could travel quite a distance for its time. These early inventors had lots of problems. Batteries weren't very good, and making lots of cars was difficult back then, but they showed that electric cars were possible. They planted a seed, and it would grow into the exciting industry we see today. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, electric cars became more popular. Cities were getting bigger, and people wanted something better than horse-drawn carriages. Electric cars, quieter and cleaner than petrol cars, became fashionable. One company, Detroit Electric, became very important. Their fancy electric cars, known for being quiet and smooth, became a sign of luxury. Rich people, especially women who liked how easy and clean they were, loved Detroit Electric cars. But the early 1900s also brought problems. Lots of oil was discovered, which meant cheaper, faster petrol cars. Henry Ford's Model T, a car anyone could afford, made petrol cars very common. Electric cars, which couldn't go very far and took ages to charge, couldn't compete. Batteries still weren't good enough, so electric cars became less popular and almost disappeared for a while. For a long time, not much happened with electric cars. Petrol cars were everywhere, and petrol stations were on every corner. But the idea of electric cars was still there, quietly waiting. During World War II, when petrol was scarce, people remembered electric cars. Electric trucks delivered things locally, showing they were useful for some jobs. But after the war, petrol was easy to get, and everyone went back to petrol cars. Even though petrol cars were king, people started to worry about dirty air and the damage petrol was doing to the planet. Then, in the 1970s, oil became very expensive and people started thinking about other ways to power their cars. This made people interested in electric cars again, and inventors started working on better batteries and electric motors. Near the end of the 1900s, the dream of electric cars came back. Better batteries, needed for all sorts of things, helped electric cars a lot. Companies like General Motors started making modern electric cars. The GM EV1, a stylish, futuristic car, caught everyone's attention. It didn't sell for very long, but it showed that electric cars could be cool and useful. But batteries still weren't perfect. Electric cars couldn't go very far and were expensive, so car makers started making hybrid cars, which used both petrol and electricity. The Toyota Prius, which came out in 1997, became the most famous hybrid. The Prius showed that people wanted cars that were better for the planet. It helped everyone accept hybrid cars and prepared the world for the electric car revolution that was coming.